Welcome to my 14th Pilates Mödling talk today with my favorite Pilates teacher, my friend, my teacher trainer, my fellow colleague, Shari Berkowitz. Thank you for joining me.
Andrea, it's my pleasure. And that introduction makes me want to blush and turn. Yes, I'm so glad to be here with you.
Cool. Shari, would you tell us why I loved your first workshop in Austria, which was about the thoracolumbar fascia?
Okay. Tell about it or tell why you loved it.
Both. In short.
Okay. I don't know why you loved it, but I know why I loved it. I loved it. Well, first of all, I have to say, I love Austria. I lived in Austria in 1994 in Vienna. And so anytime that I can return makes me extra happy. And so then if I came and taught that workshop, I must have been gloriously happy because I was able to be in Austria and on top of it, talk about my favorite subject. Which is of course the human body, and then the thoracolumbar fascia. It's an amazing part of your body that most people don't really think about, if they even know that it exists, and it changes a little bit of concentration on it changes your whole way of movement, your whole way of feeling.
Exactly. And I remember when you told us in this workshop, don't talk to your clients about that, but give them the connections. But I must say, in all the years now, I have been talking to my clients. I have shown them pictures of it. And they feel good, even if they don't understand the whole thing, but the concept, they understand the concept, and it makes such a big difference.
Yeah. So, right. It's that they don't need a 3-hour lecture on it,
right,
but a little bit of information, like 30 seconds here, 60 seconds there. Oh, exactly. See this picture? Can you imagine this inside of you? And that kind of stuff changes our clients in a positive way.
Right? Absolutely.
But very often, I think teachers want to give like the full lecture. Yeah. They don't need the full lecture. They need a little imagery. They need a little bit of understanding, and then then input it into their exercises and your cueing. Then they really can blossom.
Right. Yeah. Because I always tell the people about my first duet with you, where you touched a bone in my low back and said, this should not be here. And that was, I think it was in 2000, I don't know, 15, 13, something. And I thought, what does she mean? How can I move this bone? And because I incorporated this thoracolumbar fascia, and because we did the Shari's purposeful pelvic clock, now I think it's still here, the bone, and I know it still has some more room to lift up. But I now know what I teach and why.
Yeah. Right. What and why, right? That's always the big thing for me, and clearly for you too, is to like, what will be useful to teach my clients and myself, my favorite client, yourself, your favorite client. And then, but not just what works, why does it work? Right. Yeah. And I remember that session because I remember what I meant by that was, it's not that that bone should be removed. It was, I remember that you had a collapse of your lumbar spine. Exactly. And like, this bone shouldn't be sticking out right here. It should be able to be lifted up. Yeah. And that we want to create, as we work together, and the whole vertical workshop thing is an internal suspension as opposed to a downward collapse.
Exactly. And I didn't know how to do that. It was in the tree exercise. And how can you lift your backbones with, I don't know, with your front?
Right. Ultimately, then we get the concept of how do I need to take care of my thoracolumbar fascia so my tension is such inside of my body that my bones have more of an opportunity for suspension and less of the desire or natural thing of compression. And right. So you, of course, didn't know how to do it, and it was my job to teach it. And so the responsibility, of course, is always on the teacher to teach how to make something happen. Right. And so, and you, of course, were a great student of being like, all right, I need to try to figure out what this is. And we've worked together for a long time.
It took me years.
And it does take years. When you think about a lifetime of one set of actions, and a way of doing things, to get out of our one way of doing things and even attempt something else, let alone become exceptional at doing something else as you are now. It's a long road, but with that, it's the right journey to be on.
Of course. Yeah. And I chose you at that time as a teacher trainer because you were Power Pilates. That was my teacher training program. What made you go into this detail in the biomechanic world? Because before it was Romana's world.
Right. So, in Romana, when I was with Romana, there was really an emphasis on you don't need to know the human body. Anatomy. I won't even say a de-emphasis on anatomy. No, it was you do not need to know of it. And in fact, Romana used to attack me, verbally attack me, emotionally attack me for having questions and wanting to know about things. And when I was with Power Pilates, there was so I should say, after Romana, I really worked hard on my own to learn as much as I could. And then when I was invited in to be a teacher trainer for Power Pilates, they had a little bit more interest in, or a lot more compared to what I had previously done, into the human body. But to me, it actually was not even enough. And I thought that they touched on it in a way that was important, but I thought there's even more. And I had so many of my own ideas and desire to learn and study more that was not necessarily supported by or appropriate within Power Pilates. And so that's when I went off on my own. There's many other reasons of why I went off on my own. So more than we can get
Was this the time when you changed from the West Coast to the East Coast?
No, I started, so indeed, I was on the West Coast of America in Los Angeles, although I'm originally, my home is, where I come from is the East Coast in New York. But when I was in Los Angeles, I really started studying first anatomy and then functional anatomy and then biomechanics. And I was working with orthopedists and like orthopedic surgeons to learn and study how to read x-rays and MRIs, how to understand how the human body really works. Not from a fitness perspective, but just a really scientific and medical perspective.
And did they listen to you and your concerns and questions, these orthopedists and doctors?
Not at first.
Yeah.
At first,
yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I was say at first, especially the one who I ended up working most closely with, he was very excited to share things with me. I mean, and who makes time like that? It's really rare to have an exceptional surgeon, I mean, the top surgeon in Los Angeles, to say, yes, I will spend my free time teaching you for no money. And but we had a really great connection. And because he was actually a doctor of mine. At first, when I shared that I was doing Pilates, he was like, oh, no, Pilates, no.
Like they all say.
Of course. And so then, though, as we got to know each other even more, and as I had, I think, questions that he found very interesting and ideas of my own that he never expected a Pilates teacher would have, then he started to respect really me, and maybe that what I was doing in my Pilates world would maybe be something that's worthy of respect as well.
Okay, because I find some resistance in the doctors' world. When they are my clients, they believe me. Right. But when I go to their practice and ask about feet, because feet are my specialty, and I suggest that we do some foot training instead of putting in insoles and other things, and, they stop talking.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the specialist. I'm not, I haven't studied that. I have studied languages, but not anatomy.
Yeah. And you know, in a way, and you'll bear with me, in a way they're right. In a way they're right. And in another way, they need to open themselves up. And pardon me, I have 3 cats.
Okay. I have a cat in your mouth.
Yeah. So suddenly a cat hair flew in. In a way, they're right, because so many people in the fitness world, whether it be Pilates or yoga or personal training or any other modality, they talk from experience. They talk from their physical feeling, but they don't talk from understanding at a scientific level. And so in which case, a doctor, you want your doctor to be fully grounded in the medical and scientific world. You don't want them to be all like in other things. And so they see us like this, because if we don't have, I believe that if we as practitioners of exercise, whatever style all of us physically do and teach, if we are only in our personal experience and we're not grounded in some scientific evidence, what do we really have to speak to a medical professional about? Right. We're really talking about arts and crafts, and we're not really talking about what's solid and evidence-based. So if we can have some of our, and I don't mean that our thoughts are actually arts and crafts, but that's how they see it. Right. If we have some solid, if we have our experience and our creativity, and then we also have a knowledge of scientific evidence and medicine, well, then we could come with a conversation to people who don't know how to speak our other language. So that's how I got through to other people, and that we as a community can get through in that way.
So I would need medical talk and scientific phrases to make these people listen to me.
Yeah, and not only phrases, but education.
Right.
Yeah, or then you need a bridge. So like I'm a bridge. I'm a person like we could go in together. You don't need to become a biomechanist unless you really want to. But to then talk to somebody who is a biomechanist who believes in you, me, for example, or maybe somebody else, and for then us to go together as a team and be able to talk a language. And then it's medicine and science. They would not be able to hear you, and you would not be able to speak their language. But then it's like me in there, I could be an interpreter. So I think that that's important, is that it's hard for medicine and science to speak to the kind of work that we do. And then it's hard for us to speak to them. It's speaking two different languages.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it is actually our responsibility to learn to speak their language, or at least have an interpreter, because they're the ones who are evidence-based.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is also interesting for our clients' language. Which client needs which word to make these connections?
Yeah, right. And so you could see you have some clients who they don't need the
thoracolumbar fascia.
Right. And there's others who really do. And there's some who need an image like this, and others who need a word like that. And so to be able to adapt to the languages of our clients is really important.
Yeah, and that brings me to the wonderful images that you offer us for our anatomy, like the tuna fish cans for our low back bones.
Yeah.
I must say this resonated with me right from the minute. I could do it because I could imagine it. Yeah. Then I brought this to other teachers, and they brought it to their clients, and there were clients. And I even had a tuna fish can in my studio so that people could, then some of these clients said, I hate tuna fish. And so my colleague bought a pineapple tin.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So right. Create this, and then somebody else creates another one, but it's the same image.
Right, that ultimately, it doesn't matter if it's tuna fish or if it's salmon or if it's pineapple or if it's, I don't know, chocolate pudding, something, but that, and in images in general, that we want to find images that represent what it is that we're trying to teach our clients to feel inside or do before they can actually feel it. And then it has to be an image that resonates with the client. If it's an image that makes the client go, ugh, or they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. The responsibility is on us as the teacher to find what they're going to resonate with. And of course we have our like easy ones, the ones that like most people connect to. And then sometimes you say that one, like the tuna fish cans, and people go, I don't like tuna fish, or they're like, I can't see it. And right, then we got to dig into our own creativity and find something else that works with that client.
Right. Do you have the feeling that men need other images than women?
Very often.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. And I mean, really, our experiences are so different. They're so different. Tuna fish seems to work for, the tuna fish can seems to work for most men and women. Yeah. And the people who usually make a face at it are usually some women. I do have one male client who tuna fish cans doesn't work for him. For his wife, yes. For him, no. But he's a tennis player. And so I say, you know how you have, you have a tube that has 3 tennis balls in it, yes. Make it 5. And in that tube, can you get them to float off of each other? It works for him every time. But other images, sometimes like hugging the midline, hug your heels together. For most women, I'll say, imagine a gemstone and put this gemstone between your heels. And I'll be like, which one do you have? And like, oh, so this one's like a sapphire. This one's a diamond. This one. Okay, picture the cut of it, picture the color, everything. But then for most men, that's not going to work. Right. So you got to find what's something they're going to hug into and really hold on to. And so I usually, am like silly and say like, remember in like the 1970s where men would wear a big gold medallion on a gold chain and your shirt would be open and your hair would be flowing. And they're like, yeah, I'm like, put that gold medallion between your heels and hold on to it. And they're like, ah, yeah.
Yes, the midline cue. Sometimes you have midline month.
Yeah.
Midline. I have many clients who have difficulty holding it together, but after some years they can, and they feel it. They feel it in the teaser. And last Monday on our duet, you told me something so interesting, that my quadriceps should help me find the whole connection of the teaser, because I've been doing it with rather soft legs lately, or in the last years, because I wanted to get my pelvis to move.
Yeah.
But so, the straightening of the knees.
or even just lengthening them a little bit. They don't need to be straight, but we want your quadriceps to actually connect. So the difference between, and yes, I got to, of course, get down on a little apparatus, and now you can see my really
Thank God you have your workout clothes.
Yes, and my really ugly pants. They're very ugly. No, they're cute, but they're not.
They're good.
They're not like the beautiful ones. Okay. So when your legs are up or when your knees are bent, it's tempting to make them really loose. And as we're often taught in Pilates to have like soft knees, that's never going to work. And in the vertical workshop, we don't work with soft knees, that instead, when they're bent, they should be really strong in your knees, that your quadriceps are still engaged, that you couldn't press down and bend them more. And so that tension of the quadriceps, even when the knees are bent, will really help make all the other muscles engage and more easily. And so, it's the essence of that is not just for that exercise or that cue, but for everything, is to remember that we must work holistically, or your whole body must work to support an action, and to remember and keep thinking of ourselves as what we are, which you've heard me say a million times.
Organisms.
Yes, exactly. That we're organisms and not mechanisms. So if we bend the knees and keep them soft so I could rotate my pelvis, but now I've disconnected from those knees or those quadriceps, and I'm thinking that my pelvis is isolated. And no, how can I get my quadriceps to actually help me with the pelvis and all other things? It's a really different way of thinking. And it's a very Shari Berkowitz way of thinking.
It's so cool, because everything is connected. Everything is connected. And this brings me to my last thing. When I was in a bad place last year, but I took your classes, you saw from New York, you saw how I was doing. The body was there, the mind was somewhere. And you wrote me an email. You wrote me, what's happening? Are you happy? And this is why all is connected, even through the internet.
Even through the internet. And what was so beautiful is that you let me reach you. I knew that I could reach out to you, and you were open to me reaching out to you. And your response was incredibly beautiful. And that even through the internet, like, our friendship has developed in the most incredible way. Like because of the internet.
Because of the internet, because I've been taking your online classes before the pandemic, and only because of you, I could start on the 13th of March with Zoom teaching. And then you came up with workshops like how to teach on Zoom, how to talk through a mask, how to put up your camera so that everybody can see not only the front of you, but the whole body. So I'm absolutely grateful for all of this, because this is for my business now.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I believe that together, you, me, anybody else who feels like this, we can help each other.
Exactly.
In life, we can fight each other and not support each other, or we could always search for ways to support each other.
All right. And that's, we are going to close like that. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you too. Oh, I'm so happy to do this. Thank you.